Got a new plugin today I want to show you. This is the MK-609 or the Mark 609. This is a partnership between Kiive Audio and Audioscape, and I'm really looking forward to messing around with this. If you are new to the channel or returning, either way, thank you so much for stopping by. Before I dive in, I just want to let you know there are a bunch of affiliate links below, and there are some templates that I have available. Clicking on those things and checking that stuff out, it just helps support me and helps support the channel, and I appreciate it. If you need help with the mix or getting better at mixing or getting your music mixed, you can always reach out to me at staglsound.com. I do coaching and mixing and just help people get better at this. But let's dive in and take a look at this Mark 609. All right, so MK-609 plugin from Audioscape. This is basically a plugin emulation of Audioscape's hardware MK-609. And their hardware is a clone of a 33609. Sort of. They've made some modifications and changed a couple of things to make this a little more of a modern compressor. When it comes to the 33609, which is Neve diode bridge compressor, there aren't a lot of plugin options out there. I mean, there are a few, but there just aren't a lot of them. And the thing that's cool to me about this is Audioscape, for their unit, if you look on their website, they went back to the original 33609, the metal knob version, and they have really kind of replicated that original version of the 33609, which is pretty cool to me because if you're not familiar with the history of this compressor, the 33609 was basically a rack mount version of the Neve 2264, which would go in a console. The 2264 was basically the next step from the 2254. Big changes between those two was the release time. They added a faster release time on the 2264. On the 2254, all you had was a 400 millisecond release. That was the fastest it would go, which, we'll play some samples and you can hear the difference between the two. But when they went to the 2264, they got that 100 millisecond release on that, and then they put it in a rack. It's the 33609, and that's basically what this is emulating. Before we jump in on some audio examples, I just want to walk through some of the changes between this Audioscape version and the classic 33609. First up, they've added this super fast attack setting on the limiter. I never really use the limiters with the versions of this that I've used, but maybe now I might. They've also added some different attack settings for the main compressor on here. You've got the stock setting, and then there is a fast and a slow. We'll play with those. And then the other thing is they've added this kind of sidechain filter option over here, so you can basically filter your sidechain. The 33609, a lot of engineers like using it as their mix bus compressor. By putting that sidechain on there, you can filter out some of the low frequency energy so that it's not firing the compressor as much as maybe you want it to. So that's on there. Another change that they've done is this gain control, which you could use as kind of a makeup gain. This applies even if you turn the compressor off. So if we turn it off there, we still have the ability to use this gain control. So if you're using the limiter, you can do some makeup gain right there with it. And that's not something that existed on the original 33609. But you also have to keep that in mind when you're working with this, because if you turn off the compression, you're still getting this makeup gain. So just keep that in mind in the back of your head. If you want to bypass this and toggle it in and out, you're better off using the bypass switch on the plugin, or use the one in your DAW like that. Other than that, we've got the basic Kiive toolbar. If you're familiar with their plugins, this is in all of them. There's an input output. You want to do parallel compression within it with the mix knob, that's there. You want more Total harmonic distortion, you can turn that up. You can do width 100%. There's a mid-side mode. You can run this in mid-side now by flipping that. Enough talk. Let's listen. I'm going to start with this snare drum. Go figure, because, you know, I really have been wanting this for drums more than anything. So I'm going to start with this off. Listen to what this does to the sort of attack and impact of the snare drum when it's working. I just like what this does to the front end of that snare. It adds this kind of, I don't know, sharpness to it for me, and it's a unique kind of thing to this compressor, I think. The topology of the 33609s, it was a diode bridge compressor, which is not something we see a lot of. To my ears, it's similar to a VCA style compressor, but it's still kind of its own unique thing. And what I have dialed in here, right here, this is basically what Crystal Lord Algae would do for parallel compression with drums. So 2-to-1 ratio, 100 millisecond recovery, and somewhere between about 4 and 8 dB of gain reduction. So let's play around with this a little bit while we're on drums a minute. I want to show you what happens if we slow that recovery time down. And I'm going to turn the ratio up a little bit, because why not? And we'll play with some of these different attack settings and see what happens. But let's start with the recovery time. So we'll start at 100 milliseconds, and then I'll turn it to that 400, which is what the 2254 would do. And you should be able to hear the difference on that. I'm sorry. I just really like the characteristic that this puts on things when you really hit it hard. You know, if you want to hit compressors and do like 3 dB of gain reduction, I mean, come on, just use the stock ones. You're missing out on the fun of these things and what they actually can do if you're not hitting them hard. For this, where I would be putting it as a parallel with the drums, I want that character. I want it to do what it does here. And I'm torn. I had it on the 2-to-1 and I like that. And now I turn it up a little bit and kind of like that too. But anyways, let's look at the recovery times. So stuff you can listen for in this, and I'm gonna play this again. When I put it on 100, we're hearing more of the ring of the snare. To me, it's a little more exciting sounding. When we get to that 400, I feel it clamping down. It's accentuating the transient a little more, but you can also hear how the compressor is releasing. If you listen to the hi-hat bleed that's in there, you can hear that kind of coming up, and it's kind of slow and not really natural. So this is why I haven't been a big fan of like the 2254 plugins, because the recovery time, it's usually too slow for me. So let me play it again. I'm going to start on the 100 and then I'm going to go to the 400. So just listen to like the bleed, listen to how it kind of grabs on to that drum when I slow it down. If I go even slower, it's probably going to do that even more. So here we go. I'll go between 400 and 800. let's play around with these attack settings. So I'll start in stock and then I'll go through the different ones. So those are definitely different. You can hear when you set that to fast. I mean, the transient just disappears on it. The slow one, I kind of like it. It doesn't have as much of the character to me as the stock one does. I really like the stock one. I think that's the sound I have had in my head that I've been wanting to get out of a plugin. So I'm really digging this thing. But if you don't want as much of that kind of spank or, whatever you want to call it, you can slow down the attack and do it. I mean, I could raise the threshold a little bit, not do as much gain reduction on this, but where's the fun in that? I mean, come on. Let's bypass this compressor and let's hop over to the limiter, and I'm just going to crank this thing on and see what it sounds like. Different flavors. I don't know which one you will like. Demo the plugin, see for yourself which one you like, but I'm going to set this stuff back. Let's take this back to 2-to-1, and I'm not going to use the limiter. I'm going to use the compressor, and I'm going to put this in and use it as parallel compression so that you can kind of get a sense of what is this going to do in the mix. So this is my basically parallel compression fader, and yes, I'm working in Atmos today. Sorry, you're only hearing stereo, but that's okay. I'm gonna feather this in. Let's actually get the whole kit opened up again, and I'm just gonna add this parallel compression in, and then we'll listen to the whole thing in context. All right, let's put it into the mix. And I'm going to open the effects up again. And I'll take the parallel in and out. I'll start with an in and then I'll take it out. So it makes a pretty big difference in the context of the mix. It does give it a little more level the way I'm using this, but for me, what I'm hearing is I'm just getting more of the impact out of the drums that I like. So That is staying in, and this thing is in my template now. Of course, there are other things we can use this on. I mean, this is a really versatile compressor. So let's hop over to bass guitar. The 33609, this is like Bob Clearmountain's go-to compressor for bass guitar. So let's put it on a bass. Actually, before we do that, so I looked at it. I've got an old tracking sheet from, I think, an article he did at some point. And I'm just going to set the compressor to basically go along what Bob would do with the bass guitar. So let's play this bass here. Let's listen to a little bit of this without any compression, and then I'll pop it in and see what it sounds like. Listen to what it does to sort of the attack of the bass, or maybe think about it as listen to what it does to the articulation of the bass. I'll start with it out. I do like this. It's not like a, oh my gosh, kind of thing when you listen to it. If you're listening to this and, it seems kind of subtle, don't worry. Don't panic. This is kind of subtle, but to me, it really helps articulate what he's playing with the notes, especially in here. If we just go to this chorus. Yeah, I like that. Let's go down to the mix bus and see what it does on the mix bus. Now, in some ways, this isn't going to be a fair test of this, because this little mix I've got here, I mixed this mixing into a different compressor, which affected mix decisions. And now to just kind of throw this on after the fact, it's not going to be quite the same as if I was mixing into this, doing an actual mix, but we can still get a sense of what it will do doing it this way. I'm going to start at a 1.5 to 1 ratio, and I'm going to hit this really hard to begin with because I want to dial this in, and then I will bring it back to more where I would probably put it. So let's get this dialed in, and I'll just do it on this chorus because everything's going and we'll hear it. Oh, I think I'm going to like this. Let me dial the threshold back. I'm playing with that attack. I think I might like the slow attack on this. Let me, while we're here and we're pummeling this, and I know it's a little quieter right now. I haven't done any makeup gain, and I'm not going to hit it this hard either. But let's play with this sidechain filter on here so that you can kind of see what that does. And what I want you to do is listen to the kick drum and watch how much gain reduction we get when I start changing this filter, and listen to what's happening to the low end of the mix as I'm changing this. When it gets up to that 100 hertz setting on the filter, I feel like there is a lot more kick drum. It's articulating a lot more. The 50 might be a nice trade-off. I feel like when I have it set to off, it's biting into it a little too much, but the 50 feels like a nice balance there. So let me adjust the threshold now to where I would probably actually do this, and I'll put some makeup gain on so we can take it in and out. All right, let's toggle this in and out and see what happens. I'll start with it in. If you're wondering what to listen for on this, a few things I would say to focus on. Listen to what happens to the attack of the kick drum. Listen to what happens to the attack of the snare drum. The other thing is listen to what's going on with the instruments and the guitars especially. They're going to kind of come up when I take this in. It's not like, oh, wow, but there is a change there. Focus on those things as I take this in and out. 'Part of the reason I started using bus compression many years ago was I liked what it did to the drums. All the other stuff that came with it, I was kind of oblivious to it because of what it did to the drums. Now, I like what this is doing overall on everything, and I even like it at this 100 millisecond recovery, which seems a little fast to me for bus compression, maybe. Maybe it's a little faster than what I'm used to. I'm going to play around with these recovery times and see if there's something I like on one of the other settings. 100 milliseconds to me feels a little more exciting, which is magic word for me if you haven't figured out from watching other videos on my channel. I like it a little better at 100. At 400, it could work for me, and if I was mixing into it, it might be fine. But right now, I like the 100 millisecond. It just feels a little bit better when it's on 400. It just feels a lot more kind of, and not like in a really crazy obvious way, but enough to me where I'm like, yeah, I'm just not as big a fan of it. So that is the MK-609 from Kiive and Audioscape. What do you think of it? Leave a comment below. Have you tried this? Let me know. What are instruments you like using this on? Do you like using the limiter or the compressor? Like, let me know. If you haven't checked this out, go demo it. Go over to Kiive Audio and demo it because I really like this thing. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I am so glad that this exists, and I have to say thank you to Kiive Audio for sending this over for me to play with. I put it on mixes right away when I probably shouldn't have, because I really dig it. So check it out for yourself, though. Make up your own mind. Mark 609. Got questions, comments, thoughts on this thing? Please leave a comment below. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you soon.